Caitlin Clark is fed up with the mess Indiana Fever keeps creating, and she is not hiding it anymore. The Fever cannot ignore what is happening. The sideline confrontation, the strange offensive decisions, the growing criticism from fans, and Caitlin's own brutally honest post-game comments are creating a warning that Indiana may not be able to contain.
Is Caitlin Clark sending a message to Stephanie White, Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopf, and the Indiana Fever? A message could be being delivered. Many people are speculating with this bold move that Caitlin Clark just made ahead of her game versus the New York Liberty. Also, it looks like Aaliyah Boston might be held out. Who cares? The girl don't pass the ball to Caitlin Clark anymore. She don't set screens, all of this stuff. And it's clear as day through the video footage that Caitlin Clark is still being sabotaged by the WNBA and by the officials.
Because this is not one isolated complaint. It is a pattern that keeps getting louder. Clark appears to wave off White. The offense moves away from Clark. Commentators accuse the coaching staff of reducing a generational point guard to a role player. Fans are asking why the team keeps prioritizing somebody else's scoring story. And when Caitlin finally speaks after another ugly loss, she does not hide behind vague language about bad luck. She points directly at Indiana's effort rebounding, free throws, shooting, and urgency. That is a star putting the organization on notice.
I don't know what it is. Is Aaliyah Boston hanging out too much at the three-point line? I'm not sure what it is. Caitlin Clark's shot's not quite falling, and if it is falling, then suddenly we stop going, we take her out, and it just seems weird.
Before we break this down, subscribe if you want direct Caitlin Clark coverage without the polished excuses. Because today, we are going through the footage, the coaching criticism, the trade theories, and Caitlin's own words to answer one uncomfortable question. Is Clark still trying to repair Indiana from inside the building? Or is she starting to understand that the building itself may be the problem?
SpaghettiOs. Caitlin Clark introducing the Statue of Liberty edition, the New York Liberty edition. I already know you damn near besties with Sabrina. We think you cool with Lexi. No, you go way back with Sabrina. Caitlin Clark could be sending a message to the Indiana Fever. Hey, I might not sign that epic. Y'all pushing everybody else for MVP. Stephanie White is having tantrums every time I shoot the ball. She's falling over herself on the sidelines. I don't have to deal with this. I can go elsewhere.
Start with the footage that made this entire theory impossible to dismiss. White approaches Clark on the sideline and tries to speak with her. Clark appears to listen briefly, then turns away and walks toward the bench before White is finished. Maybe Caitlin was frustrated, maybe she wanted to focus on the next possession, but do not pretend the body language was invisible. It looked like a player who had reached the point where another explanation from the sideline was not going to change her mind.
It was late in the Vegas game.
Yes. Indiana has been rolling as of late.
And the reason this matters is simple. Caitlin Clark is not a player who needs to be hidden from the action. She is Indiana's best advantage creator. She sees passing lanes early, manipulates defenders, changes pace, and creates good shots before the defense has time to set its feet. When the ball is in her hands, the Fever can attack multiple weaknesses at once. When she is pushed away from the ball, the defense gets a break. That is not a small tactical adjustment. That changes the entire identity of the team.
I think it's an internal issue, something with the team and the coaching staff, more than it is the opponents making us do things we don't want to do.
Now listen to the accusation coming from the wider conversation. Many are saying that Clark has been turned into a role player so Kelsey Mitchell can lead the offense and keep her scoring streak alive. In other words, the Fever are running a system that circles around individual numbers while the generational point guard is left creating space for everybody else. That is a serious claim, so let's not treat it like a meme. Now let's compare it with the result.
Made it their business to pretty much speak about how this game turned out. We all know Stephanie White potentially moved Caitlin Clark to a role player, making her second and third option, catering to Kelsey Mitchell to make sure she keep her 20-plus point streak going. Now, in the midst of her doing that, man, it is completely sabotaging the team. Kelsey Mitchell was the only person benefiting from this, and it's really kind of hard to gauge. Like, is they doing this so Kelsey Mitchell could land another max deal, possibly somewhere else, just if Caitlin Clark don't leave, because they feel like they owe her that? Because to me, I don't think they owe Kelsey Mitchell anything. I thought this was about winning a championship, but clearly this has went from the Caitlin Clark show to the Kelsey Mitchell, how many points can you score tonight show. I am completely convinced.
Kelsey Mitchell scored 37 points in the Dallas loss. That is a big number. Nobody has to pretend otherwise, but Indiana still lost 91-85, and the offense looked disjointed. This is where the box score celebration falls apart. You can feed one player, keep an individual streak alive, and still make the team easier to guard. The Fever did not need one player to win the scoring headline. They needed the offense to remain connected. If Mitchell's points come at the cost of Clark's creation, then the statistic is real, but the strategy is still a failure. This is why people are starting to use words like sabotage. Not because anyone has produced a signed document showing that White wants Clark to fail, but because the same complaint keeps appearing in different forms. Too few designed actions, too much Clark off the ball, too much predictable isolation, and too much responsibility placed on a different scorer. One commentator even argues that the team is failing to run enough pick and rolls for Clark. If that is accurate, the Fever are not merely underusing her. They are removing the very action that makes her dangerous. Now we have to discuss Caitlin's own words, because this is where the title's dramatic theory gains fuel. After the loss to New York, Clark called Indiana's offensive rebounding atrocious. She pointed to roughly 50% free throw shooting and about 20% shooting from three. She said the team needed urgency on every possession. Those are not the words of someone trying to protect the organization from criticism. Those are the words of a player who believes the team is wasting opportunities and then acting surprised when the opponent wins.
You have to look at it positive, but like we're coming off the loss. We have to be aggressive and finish this road trip on a win. That's how I see it. And everybody's tired, everybody's sore, who cares? Figure out a way to make yourself feel better and shoot up and go for it.
Caitlin refused to use fatigue as a convenient excuse. She acknowledged that New York was more physical from the first possession and dictated the tempo, but she also talked about pride, professionalism, and showing up every night. That is important. Clark was not asking the media to rescue her. She was demanding a higher standard from the entire team, and if the players are expected to show that urgency, the coaching staff has to show it too. A system that produces low energy and poor shot quality cannot be defended by repeating the word execution after every loss. Now listen to Stephanie White's post-game answer. She says the Fever need more stops, better contests on threes, and improved offensive movement and flow. Fine. Those are reasonable basketball priorities, but here's the contradiction. White says the team needs movement, while the criticism surrounding her offense is that Clark is being separated from the ball and the possessions are becoming predictable. If the coach understands that flow matters, why does the offense keep looking like it is designed to interrupt its own flow?
I thought that there were some moments that were making it possible. Not enough. In New York, they didn't go much where you thought that yesterday, defensive end. And then there were lapses of that. There were fouls, there were free throws, there were a lot of offensive rebounds, there were soft switches into cuts. Lapses on the offensive end where we lose the ball, where you're trying to play.
Stop right there. Movement and flow cannot just be post-game vocabulary. It has to show up on the floor. It means Clark is touching the ball early. It means teammates are cutting when she draws help. It means the Fever are using her as the initiator instead of treating her like a decoy. If White wants the team to play with urgency, she cannot build an offense that asks its most creative player to wait for permission to become involved. That is not structure, that is a handbrake. The trade theory makes the situation even more uncomfortable. One source says Clark's agent is supposedly working to get her out of Indiana. Another encourages Clark to keep New York and every other possibility on the table. No, those claims are not confirmed. Clark has not announced a trade request and her shoes are not a legal document. But the fact that multiple commentators are now building entire videos around her possible exit tells us something about the trust problem. Fans do not invent these theories in a vacuum. They build them when the franchise player appears frustrated and the organization does not convincingly explain the direction of the team. There is also the physical issue. Another source presents a compilation of Clark being hit, held, and tackled, while arguing that White should be defending her more aggressively. That compilation cannot prove officials are intentionally targeting Clark, and it cannot prove White has a secret agenda. But it does show why Clark's supporters are frustrated. She is absorbing the physical punishment of the league, while the offense sometimes asks her to disappear from the possession. If the team is not going to maximize her playmaking and not going to visibly defend her when opponents get physical, what exactly is Indiana asking her to trust? So let's connect the evidence without pretending that Caitlin has already issued a quit threat. The footage shows apparent resistance. The commentators describe a role player treatment. The offense appears to drift toward Mitchell's scoring. Clark publicly calls the execution unacceptable. White identifies movement and flow as priorities, while fans argue that the system is producing the opposite. And now public voices are telling Clark to keep a possible exit open. Any one of those points can be explained away. Together, they create the kind of pressure that turns a frustrated player into a future free agent headline. That is why the title is a warning, not a direct quote. Caitlin Clark has not said she will quit if Stephanie White stays, but if the Fever keep confusing control with leadership, keep moving the offense away from Clark, and keep expecting her to smile through decisions that make Indiana easier to guard, the organization may eventually face a choice it created itself. Change the system, change the coach, or risk discovering that the player they thought would stay forever has finally stopped waiting for them to understand. The solution is not complicated. Put the ball in Clark's hands. Let her read the defense. Let Mitchell score from the advantages Clark creates instead of forcing Mitchell to create everything alone. Protect Clark when the game becomes physical, and if White is the coach who can deliver that structure, prove it on the floor. If she cannot, the Fever need to stop gambling with the career of the player who gives them their identity, their attention, and their best chance to win. So what do you think? Is Caitlin Clark actually preparing to leave Indiana? Or is this the last warning before she demands a coaching change? Does Stephanie White still deserve the benefit of the doubt, or has the offense already made the decision for her? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more direct Caitlin Clark coverage.